the 2019 International Island Classic presented by Visit Phillip Island. The 26th year this historic racing event is held here at the world-class Phillip Island Grand Prix circuit. Team USA, Australia and New Zealand all battling and fighting it out for that trophy at the end of the weekend. And Steve Martin, I know the Aussies are looking to go back-to-back, but certainly some fierce competition they're up against, especially with the revitalised USA team.
Well, absolutely. The Americans are putting a lot into it this year, Emma. They've got a whole bunch of riders making their debut down under in the team. Josh Hayes, ex-American champion. Jason Pridmore's here too. There's almost as if the whole AMA field has come down to take us on.
Well, speaking of ex-champions, you're back here again. Steve, fantastic to see you representing your country. What's it like being a part of such a fantastic event like this?
It's a fantastic feeling to stand up with a bunch of guys representing Australia. I've done it for 10 years now. There must be something drawing me to this place, I can tell you. It's just a real great pride moment.
Well, 3 days, 3 countries and 4 huge races. We cannot wait to see who takes home the title this weekend.
Thanks, Emma and Steve. Before the racing action got underway on Saturday, the teams gathered on Friday night for some social drinks to get to know each other before they went into battle on the internationally famous 4.45 kilometre Phillip Island circuit.
And Phil, it is one of the highlights for the weekend of these guys. They catch up with friends they haven't seen for a while. And in fact, like the Americans, coming down and meeting a lot of people for the first time. So it was great for them all to get together, have a few frosty treats before the teams were announced.
Representing Team Australia in 2019, last year's Ken Wooten Trophy winner Dave Johnson, 3 times champion Sean Giles, Jed Metzer, Laurie Fife and Craig Ditchburn.
As well as the Irish-Australian Paul Byrne for his second time, the very rapid Nova Castrian Aaron Morris, Scotty Webster, Cam Donald, Dean Orchard and the evergreen Steve Martin.
Rounding out the field for Team Australia will be Bo Beaton and also the veteran Queenslander Johnny Allen. Emma Notafrancesco caught up with some of the key members of Team Australia.
I am here with Bo Beaton from Team Australia. 8 international classics already. Welcome back to the island. Looks like the Aussie team is pretty strong this year. You feeling confident?
Yeah, I think we're feeling confident as a team. We've got a lot of people in the top 10 there, and the Americans have definitely brought back a strong team this year. There's no doubt about that, and some great machinery. But I think the talent we've got in our team and some good quality bikes, there's no doubt we can be at the front. Plenty
of preparation heading into an event like this?
Yeah, look, unfortunately we were a little bit behind the schedule. We're getting our bikes together and we didn't get any testing in. So we've had a few little teething issues on Thursday and not much chassis work on the bike. So we managed to get out yesterday afternoon in qualifying and put a decent lap time in. So hopefully we can keep that up for the rest of the day.
Oh, this track, it's amazing, you know, the speed, the spectacle, the fact the ocean's in the background. Everything's amazing about this circuit. I've done a couple of years in the World Championship and nothing really compares to this place, so it's amazing.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's everything's going okay. We're 4th in qualifying, so I messed up my fast qualifying lap, but 4th's still okay. It's in the game, and I'm confident that I've got the pace to run at the front and win again. So, but most importantly, it's just about us all looking after each other and try not to take each other out as the Aussie team, but yeah, it's going to be some tight race, and the Americans have really put it on this year. So yeah, we'll see how we go. Got first race coming up.
I think it's competing for your country, you know. There's nothing like it to be out there with a group of guys battling against other countries. You know, it really gives you a great satisfaction if you manage to win. You never know in this racing. I mean, guys get faster throughout the weekend. Things happen. We're just going to keep our fingers crossed. We're going to give it everything we can. And there's one thing that we do know for sure, and that is if you lose, you're going to live with it for a year because this event only happens once a year.
Look, all the Aussie guys are really fast, and the Yanks have got some really fast guys too. So, you know, it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the first 2 races, and then hopefully the Aussies, we can come through and win the event again.
2-time Isle of Man TT champion Cam Donald joins me, and just getting a look at that bike. That's not your usual bike. Tell us what happened at the beginning of this weekend.
Yeah, well, it's been a long weekend so far. The Irving Vincent that I usually ride had some mechanical issues, so just when we'd parked that and I thought my weekend was over, I came in the garage to see Rex Wolfenden, team captain, and apologise for not contributing to the effort. And now here I am on his spare bike, so just it goes to show the team spirit of the event.
Speaking of team spirit, the Aussies, can you do it again this year? You are reigning champions. What do you need to do to take it out?
Yeah, well, I mean, the Americans are going to make us work for it. They're extremely fast, so we've got to stick together. We're all going to ride our own race, but also work as a team, not chop each other up out on track, and just get points for the acquire the points for the team effort, I guess.
Now, I heard a little whisper that there's someone that you wouldn't mind beating this weekend. Who was it?
Well, the first race I started from the back of the grid and had a dust up with an old sparring partner from overseas, Mark Miller from America. He really chopped me off in the Honda corner on that last lap, so his card's marked for the next race.
Mark Miller, you heard it. He's coming for you. Good luck this weekend.
Thanks very much.
2019 sees the strongest ever team representing the United States, with Josh Hayes, the 4-time AMA champion, and Dale Quarterly, one of the leading privateers from the 90s, joined by Steve Rapp and their team captain, Dave Crussell.
And the fastest American round the Isle of Man, Mark Miller. Barrett Long coming back for another show. Rennie Skaisbrook, an honorary American this weekend after his term in Cycle News. We've got Ed Lindau as well, Robbie Ruel, Michael Gilbert, Jason Pridmore coming back for another dip, as well as the man from Cuba this weekend, Jorge Guerrero.
Larry Pegram adds to the list of former AMA stars, and Wade Boyd, long-serving member of Team USA, once again riding the Moto Guzzi. Emma Notta Francesco caught up with some of the key members of Team USA.
It is Dave Crussell, the captain of Team USA. Now, you've been here since the 90s. A big job for you, though, as team captain. What's it like being a part of and organising an event like this and a team?
It's pretty crazy. You know, not just organising the team, but I actually build a lot of bikes myself. So of the team this time round, actually 6 of the bikes are mine, and they've been put together with my hands. So it's been quite an ordeal to actually get all of the bikes there and then organise the rest of the team members to get here. But you know, it's when we first came here and Fergus invited us to the event. We had a kind of a ragtag kind of group of individual bikes, amateur racers, and those kind of things. And we came for a few years, and we really said, hey, we really want to do this. We want to make the US get up the front of the whole thing. And so we put some big money into it, not just myself, but a whole bunch of people, a whole bunch of effort. And we're here this year with a really, really strong team. You know, I think the last race, I think we have 4 or 5 US riders in the top 10, which is absolutely outstanding. I think our best ever before this was 2. So, when you get 4 or 5 up there, you can actually start to challenge the Australians for the points. So, yeah, we're pretty stoked about this.
I'm just hoping that I can do my part. Jason, I think, is really the team leader in here, and he's who brought me to it. He's got the most experience with the bike and with the track and the whole event and how it all works. So, at this point, I don't know much about it. This is my learning experience. We didn't talk a whole lot about it coming into this, and I just want to do my part. So far, we seem to be competitive. I feel like we're a little outgunned and outnumbered a little bit, but go out there and give it the best shot that I got, and hopefully just do my job for the team and let everyone be responsible for their part.
Yeah, it's first time here, first time racing like a big-time classic bike, and it's something else. The track is amazing, of course, the MotoGP world-class, World Superbike circuit, and it's just wonderful the way it flows, and you need hard braking and fast bits, you need a little bit of balls, you need a little bit of technique and experience, but we're slowly etching up. We're doing all right. Like, we're slow. I haven't crashed the bike or blown it up, and I think that's there's some attrition in this type of racing, so I've got to be pleased with that. Cameron Donald, who's a fellow TT racer from the Isle of Man, you can kiss my butt, because I will block you, I'll put my elbows out, and if you try to pass me, I will pass you back. So it's on. It's on!
In 2019, Team New Zealand once again takes on an international flavour, led by their team captain and part-time comedian, Duncan Coots. He'll be joined by 3 times BSB champion John Reynolds and internationally renowned journalist Michael Neves from NCN and New Zealand star Jay Lawrence.
Joining the likes of a few Anzacs in Glenn Hindle, Alex Phillips, Glenn Crutchley, Dean Castleton, as well as an Irishman thrown into the mix with Brendan Wilson as well.
Roger Gunn on board his brand new F1 Harris machine, Campbell Stevenson, and Pete Byers, who is certainly no stranger to Australian shores. Steve Martin went behind enemy lines to catch up with key members of Team New Zealand.
One man that's no stranger to the island and has had 3 years' experience as captain of the New Zealand squad, Duncan Coote. Welcome back to Australia.
Good to be here. Yeah, we're all ready to go, so bring it on.
This is one of the toughest fields that we've seen, and you've got a really good crew put together this year.
Yeah, we didn't want to be the donkeys like we've been for the last few years, so we brought Carl Cox on board. They were good enough. They've set up a base now in New Zealand, in Taupo, so they've come on board with us and brought some really good bikes and some riders which we've Kiwiified, if you can call it that.
There's plenty of good tracks over there in New Zealand, but what is it that keeps on bringing you guys over here?
Oh, well, this is the greatest track in the world, so everyone wants to come over here and do it at least once. And yeah, the camaraderie, we've got to know the other teams, the other countries, and it's just a lot of fun to see these boys again, and they start to come over to our races too.
The last time I raced here was back in '96. I've been here in between times with a bit of testing with Suzuki and stuff, but to race the track in anger, '96, so it's a long, long time ago. I know where the circuit goes, but it's so fast. It is so hard to hit apexes, and I've spent the last 2 days trying to hit every single apex on the circuit. The only time I've done it is by following my teammate Jay here in the first race today, and it's all starting to come together again now. So it's very tricky. It's a very tricky circuit, but one of the best circuits in the world. It's been a long, long time since I've raced a motorbike, and I'm on the back foot, I must admit. I'm blowing a lot of cobwebs away. I'm riding faster than I really should be or need to, but I'm loving every minute of it. You know, Carl Cox has been really good enough to supply the bike and all the tyres and everything else. So I'm hoping to repay, you know, his trust in me. But at the end of the day, you know, it's a bit of a party, a bit of a festival, and everybody's here really to enjoy themselves.
I've been in contact with Duncan, the captain for the team, for a few years. I did an event with him, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and yeah, from there we've got a bit of a relationship, and also I spent 2 seasons actually there racing another bike, and they ended up taking us to America and we did a few rounds there. So, you know, they've provided some great opportunity when I've had nothing to ride. So, yeah, it's good to give something back. Even, as you know, Steve Martin's here and he passed me one of the races and couldn't have the presenter beating me. So I had to give him some stick on the last few laps. But, yeah, it's a great vibe in the pits. I mean, really competitive, but everyone comes and has a laugh and everyone wants to see everyone out there doing well. So
I'm an honorary Kiwi for the weekend. Carl's flown us all the way over from the UK, and yeah, this is my 5th year racing with the team. For the last few years I've been racing in the Period 6 class on his GSX-R 1100, but this year he's collaborated with Team Classic Suzuki, and which is an official Suzuki GB effort, and they brought over 3 of their amazing classic race bikes for us to use. So I'm on a XR69 and my teammate's John Reynolds on another XR69, and we've got Jay Lawrence on a Katana. And these bikes are really special because they've raced at the Classic TT and scored lots of wins there. So this is the first time really they've been down under and they've been on a proper circuit. So it's taken a little while to get them set up for the circuit because TT settings are completely different to what you need at somewhere like Phillip Island. But as we've dialed them in, they've just become fantastic to ride, absolutely.
We've met the teams. The serious part of the weekend is about to get underway. Join us on the other side of this break as the racing action for the International Challenge hits the track at the 26th Annual International Island Classic presented by Visit Phillip Island.
Of pit lane here at the Phillip Island Grand Prix circuit, catching up with Kim Story, who is the General Manager for Destination Phillip Island. And Kim, what a fantastic event to be involved in. But of course, when you leave the track, there are so many sensational things to do across the entire weekend here in Phillip Island.
Absolutely, Emma. So Phillip Island's known for its amazing racing circuit, but also our incredible wildlife. And so little penguins come into the beach every night, and we have visitors from around the world and around Australia experiencing that. We have national surfing reserves. We have fantastic seaside villages with restaurants and cafes ready to welcome visitors. And you can really have a whole of island experience here on the island.
Absolutely love spending the whole weekend here. Can the Aussies do it again?
Absolutely. We're supporting the Aussies, but it's great to see the US and New Zealand contingents here, and that's what Phillip Island's about. We're an international destination, and we hope to attract more visitors every year for this event.
Thank you very much, Kim. Enjoy the weekend.
Thank you.
It is time to go racing here at Phillip Island. This 4.45 kilometre track, world famous. All of the Grand Prix riders, World Superbike riders, and the historic races here this weekend absolutely love this track, and no better place to be on Australia Day than at Phillip Island with absolutely magnificent weather. The riders are getting ready to take the grid for the first of the International Challenge races, and this year we have teams from Australia, America and New Zealand battling it out. Can Australia retain the trophy that they won in a very close fight last year? The 4.45 kilometre track at Phillip Island is world famous, 12 turns, extremely high speed, and these historic bikes will have to undergo 6 laps of frantic action 4 times this weekend to take out the International Challenge trophy. Let's jump on board for a lap of the Phillip Island circuit with American star Josh Hayes, the 4-time AMA champion, as we scream down towards turn 1. The place where he actually admitted early on in the weekend he has his eyes closed as he comes through here, dropping back only 1 gear and then setting himself up for the long arcing left-hander at turn 2.
Yeah, right here off Canberra it goes from down the hill now, getting the drive out into 3rd gear, 4th gear, picking it up onto the fat part of the tyre, accelerating hard up through the gears, 4th, clicking 5th as they tip it on the side going through Stoner Corner. The front and the rear fighting for mercy and traction. Yeah, down into turn 4 now. The very slow turn, it goes to the right-hander, then sets you up for the long run out towards Siberia, where they stand the bike up once again onto the fat part of the tyre. Look at the revs rise quickly as they come down to the left-hander at Siberia, which then starts the drive up to the top of the hill at Lukey Heights. One of the most spectacular parts of any racetrack anywhere in the world is the charge up the hill here. You talk about the temperature, Phil, and the revs. Look at the temperature, 192 degrees Fahrenheit. They're saying these guys aren't working these bikes through here as they come through Lukey Heights, up the hill, looking for that passing manoeuvre if they need one, under brakes as they come over the hill here, down into this very critical MG corner where, Phil, this is where you got to start. Oh, there's been a fall there at the start of the onboards, but here's the drive to get your drive down the straight. Yeah, it is a very tricky corner, turn 10. You've got to get the drive out of there and through turn 11 where we run now. Turn 11, it feels like when you look at the track that there's actually a straight in between them. The speed these guys are going, it's virtually one big corner from turn 11, then drive through turn 12. This is what sets up your speed down the Long Gardner Straight. A good run out of turn 12, use all of the circuit and run to the finish line, and hopefully that's a lap somewhere in the 36, 37, 38 second bracket. That's what you'll need to be a front runner in the International Challenge. We see our bikes coming back now on their warm-up lap for this first leg of the International Challenge here for 2019. Can the Aussies retain it, or are the Americans going to step out of the woods and come and give us a real fight for our life? I think it might be the latter. Well, this year, the American team has really stepped up the challenge with some high-profile riders. We've already been on board with Josh Hayes. Great to see Dale Quarterly, one of the leading AMA privateers from the early and mid-90s out here as well. Steve Rapp, Larry Pegram, and Michael Gilbert, who this weekend so far, Mark Brax, has been one of the real star performers. And one of the stars from last year, Dave Johnson, coming up on the grid as we look at our grid with Aaron Morris at 37.34, Jason Primont and Paul Byrne rounding out the front row. Yeah, Bo Beaton back there in position number 7, Steve Martin and Sean Giles on the Suzuki Katanas. They're pumped for a big weekend as well. And Larry Pegram, Michael Gilbert and Michael Neves, the Englishman riding for New Zealand on the Suzuki this weekend. And not the only high-profile Englishman riding for New Zealand. Great to see John Reynolds back to Phillip Island as well. Dale Quarterly, one of the real heroes, a privateer from the AMA Championship. Craig Ditchburn on that TZ750 always does well. Cameron Donald has had a difficult weekend so far on board the Irving Vincent, is back there in position number 25. And great to see Rennie Skaisbrook now working for Cycle News magazine in the US, part of Team USA this weekend, but great to see him back home in Australia. It's now time to go racing as we jump on board with Bo Beaton looking back as he locks down the visor. The heart rate starts to rise, the revs will start to rise. Beautiful sunny conditions here at Phillip Island. No better place to be on Australia Day. We're away for race 1. It looked like a very shabby start there for our pole sitter Aaron Morris as this massive field makes their way down towards turn 1. Flying down the outside of the circuit is Al Phillis, representing New Zealand this weekend on board bike number 20. But it looks like a great start from everyone involved as they pile into turn 1. Look at this marauding pack, as you said, Phil, heading into turn 1. But I tell you what, Jason Pitmore looked like, from the middle of the front row, looked like he got a bit of a jump as well. We'll see what the officials have got to say about that. But what a magnificent sight here at the best racetrack in the world. Oh, running out wide, Aaron Morris nearly clipping the grass here as they head down to Stoner Corner.
He has been the pole sitter all weekend, the man in regards to pace, but at the moment this race is being led by Davo Johnson, the man that won the Ken Wooten Trophy last year. There's this huge field of riders, and you made the point earlier on, Braxy, which is very important. These guys are not out for a Sunday ride. They are racing. Look at Jed Metcher, almost elbow down around Siberia Corner on one of the only Harris Hondas racing anywhere in the world.
And it's only the first lap, and the tyres are fighting for adhesion. All the different lines, but on board with Jed Metcher as we go up the hill. Davo Johnson running a bit wide. He might slow himself down a bit there. It might allow Jed Metcher to go round the outside under brakes and take the lead at the end of this first lap.
Well, what you can see here too is two definitely distinct riding styles. Jed Metcher tries to carry a lot of corner speed. He has that bike set up more modern, like a modern bike. Look at the corner speed there, right up onto the back of Davo Johnson's machine, bike number 3, as they come streaming out of turn 11. This is a very fast part of the circuit, around through turn 12 now. Let's see who has the top speed advantage. Jason Pridmore showed last year how good he was at Phillip Island. He is so much better this year. He's been in the top of the timesheets pretty much all weekend, and he's now right onto the back of our leading group as they fly down the Gardner Straight for the first time.
Well, he can see those two starting to break away, and he needs to tag onto the back of this to make it a three-way fight. He doesn't want the two Aussies out there fighting at all. He wants to join in and fight the scraps as well. As on board now with Dave Johnson as he heads through Southern Loop for the second time. But look at the body language, the bike language of Jed Metcher. He's got the cases dragging on the ground as he tries to get the power to the ground of that T-Rex Honda.
Yeah, right behind Jason Pridmore on bike number 43, the Ralph Hudson Yamaha. Oh, look at the smoke coming off Jed Metcher's machine, the rear tyre. Right behind him, bike number 4, Josh Hayes. Didn't expect to see him that high up in the order this early on in the weekend.
You say he rides his corners like a modern superbike, Phil. Did you see him backing him in there like a modern superbike? On around the outside, Metcher comes on David Johnson on bike number 3. So Metcher into the lead now. What can he do? Is he going to drag Pridmore and Johnson along with him, or is he going to disappear?
It looked like his belly pan was actually coming loose. Maybe that's what the smoke was that we could see, Braxy, as they drive hard now out of the Hayshed, one of the scariest corners here at Phillip Island, and across the top of Lukey Heights. Pridmore, Hayes right in there. Also Aaron Morris on board bike number 64. Didn't get the best of starts, but he's certainly charging his way back through the field, and not too far behind bike number 186, Bo Beaton, on that hand-built all-Australian made Irving Vincent 1300.
And here they come, Pridmore, bike number 43. As he the back snaps away from him. He's over the bars. Oh, Bo Beaton on the Irving Vincent takes it way over the top as well. What a massive incident, Phil.
Yeah, this was only on the end of lap 2, Braxy, so it'll be interesting to see what the officials do, but that was a massive crash. You can see Pridmore just lost the back end of his machine. I think we'll see a red flag stoppage now as the riders make their way down the straight and in towards turn 1. Yes, we can see a few red flags actually holding there, and the riders have got their hands up in the air, but that was a big incident. I think you'll find Bo Beaton could not see what happened to Pridmore. His vision would have been completely blocked by Jed Metcher and also Davo Johnson, and there's that belly pan I said about that. I think it was starting to come loose, and good news for Jed Metcher with the red flag. They'll be able to fix that up. But there is a replay, the Suzuki replay showing Ralph Hudson's Yamaha going down. Pridmore just lost the back end, and unfortunately Bo Beaton, completely unsighted, had nowhere to go when he was confronted by Pridmore's number 43 machine. And that's one down for Team USA and one down for Team Australia.
And I'll tell you who else was very lucky was Josh Hayes. He'd had to take evasive action as well. As we look at the Suzuki replay again, and Pridmore there getting on the gas, trying to keep in touch with the leading pair, but over the bars he goes, and like you said, Bo Beaton having nowhere to go, and that Irving Vincent just destroying itself as a cartwheel through the kiddie litter.
Well, here we go, on board with Josh Hayes. Braxy, let's see what he actually did see. He was incredibly lucky, well, to miss the stricken motorcycle and his teammate, Jason Pridmore as well.
As we look at the bike on board with Bo Beaton, Phil, this is going to be very dramatic. He gets on the gas here. Oh, you can see him go right over the bars, the Superman there. And you can see Josh Hayes slowing down just at the corner, out of the corner of his eye, as now we get ready for a complete restart for leg number 1 of the International Challenge.
On board with Josh Hayes on the grid, on board the Mojo Yamaha. There is a big fleet of those motorcycles here this weekend. A bit better start for Aaron Morris than it looked like as they made their way off the start line for a restart of race number 1. And as they charge down in towards turn 2, on the inside, Sean Giles looked like he got a pretty good start, but it's Metcher on board bike number 22 for Team Australia that leads them through turn 1.
And again, the Aussies take control of this race. Davo Johnson in second. Alex Phillips representing New Zealand in third position there as they go down through Southern Loop. Now the big drag down through Stoner Corner into turn 4 for the restart of this interrupted leg.
Yeah, Davo Johnson on board the Harris Suzuki XR69, the Tom Dermody owned machine, the bike that he rode to the Ken Wooten Trophy last year, right onto the back of Jed Metzer. Just looking there, was that I think it was that Michael Neves running a bit wide there in turn 4, getting it a little bit out of shape. But Metzer leads them. Aaron Morris well placed. Steve Martin on board bike number 99, very well placed as well on the first of the or the second of the Suzuki Katanas, right behind Aaron Morris.
And you can see that Metzer's bike Sans belly pan at the moment, and he's going to make him chase. He's got the lead now, which he did incidentally at the start of that second lap. Now he's going to try and consolidate this and make the rest of them give chase as they head there. Jolsey on screen on the Birrell Suzuki at the moment. Look at the different lines coming into MG. You'd think that, well, definitely proving they're not out for the Sunday riders. They're trying all bits of different lines, different attacking manoeuvres to try and get a bit of advantage over the next rider.
We can just see just ahead of Josh Hayes there is Steve Martin, the 1999 Australian Superbike champion and 2009 World Endurance champion, starting to give a bit of slipstream assistance there to Josh Hayes. But look at the Katana with absolutely no fairing at all. Has a pretty long pair of legs down the front straight. As they come down towards the bottom of the straight, Hayes hasn't been able to get past Steve Martin, who is in turn glued to the back of the Arnold's Fruit Market machine of Al Phillips representing New Zealand.
Well, I think when he saw the bars shaking in his hands, he might have shut his eyes as he does through turn 12 and turn 1 at the moment, Phil.
And it's also interesting too, Braxy, bike number 64, Aaron Morris, is one of the ex-Trevor Birrell Katanas that this weekend is being run by the College team and their star rider, Aaron Morris, who, if he had the right equipment, could still be a front runner in the Australian Superbike Championship.
Yeah, Les Corrish redeveloping that bike from when he got it from the Birrell brothers. And there's Steve Martin on Sean Giles' bike from last year as well. As Sean Giles, he's got a brand new bike from the Birrell boys, as we're on board with the 3 times Australian Superbike champion,
who loves this event. Just quietly, Sean Giles, as we go back to the Suzuki replay here, on board with Steve Martin. That was the move at turn 10. You could see Morris, when we were looking from behind on Josh Hayes' bike, Morris's foot was off the peg. He was in there at 100% into turn 10 on that occasion.
As we get another look as they come down now into the corner. Look at him, foot off the pegs. He does a real inside line there. That's putting a lot of commitment in your tyres because they're not that warm at the moment.
What was that we said before, Braxy, about this is not a parade lap, and there's clear demonstration as we jump back on board with Steve Martin looking at his teammate Sean Giles. Right into the slipstream now. You can see the advantage of the slipstream there. 2 identical motorcycles, the Birrell prepared Katanas with those magnificent frames built by Dale Gilbert. Josh Hayes also puts a big move on Al Phillips to move up 1 position for Team USA. The USA team scoring some good points here in this race. Not too far behind is that Steve Rapp or Larry Pegram on another one of the Mojo Yamahas just behind Steve Martin.
And these bikes are over 30 years old, Phil, but still cracking down the Gardner Straight, topping speeds of 246 to 250 kilometres an hour.
Well, and when you can see the lap record in this class is a 36.3 set by Jeremy McWilliams a couple of years ago. They are not hanging around as Morris now into the lead on board the Corrish machine, doing a great job. Look how out of control that motorcycle is.
Well, I was just going to say the same with Jett. It looked like he was losing the front as he tipped it into turn 4 then, which allowed Aaron Morris a little bit of an advantage. Now that Morris is in the lead, he's probably the younger brigade of anybody in this field on the Les Corrish machine at the moment. He's been fastest all weekend, as you said, Phil. Now he's in the lead for the first time. What can he do?
Well, he hasn't been getting the best of starts, but that's no surprise because he's only spent a couple of days on the machine, Braxy, doing a ride day at Eastern Creek. You don't really get to practice your start. So he's got off to a pretty tardy start, but he's now shown the pace that he's got. He's into the lead and he's starting to show everybody else a clean set of heels, as he has done for the rest of the weekend as well. But look at the style on board that Katana. And isn't it great to see a Katana out front, because this class over the last couple of years has been the domain of Formula One machines, but it's great to see an original Katana out front.
Yeah, and there'll be a few heart flutters there, like you said, it's from the Birrell boys. They'd be quite happy to see one of their ex-bikes is a massive chain slapper. The front end shake of Morris's machine as he tries to keep it under control, which allows Jed Metcher to move up the inside, going through Doohan Corner. How long can he stay there for? Morris is going to throw it right back at him.
Well, there's obviously no handling problems with the Katana around the corners, but that was a little bit unnerving, and I'd say Morris just had to get out of the throttle a fraction, and allowed Jed Metcher with the full fairing and great drive and a full head of slipstream to get his way back past again on that Rex Wolfenden prepared Harris Honda. And as we said, Braxy, one of the only Harris Hondas racing anywhere in the world. Most of those Harris chassis have got either Suzuki, Yamaha or Kawasaki engines in them.
Yeah, well, you know, Rex, he's been a loyal supporter of Honda for a number of years. As on screen you saw a man that dominated last year, Dave Johnson, on board with him at the moment on the Tom Dermody XR69, the one that actually Troy Corser was on last year for a while at another classic meeting in Australia. But these bikes that come out here are just, they're right off the showroom, Phil, aren't they?
And if you're wondering, Dave Johnson riding for Team Australia.
Yeah, I saw the sticker on his fairing, Phil. He's a very proud Australian, and he'll be heading back over to the Isle of Man to fly the flag very proudly. As look at this, Alex Phillips and Steve Martin basically side by side on their Suzukis as well. And also Dave Johnson trying his hardest to keep away the four-time American Superbike champion, Josh Hayes. Hasn't he really learnt this track very, very quickly? But what would you expect a guy of that calibre and that experience? But man, is he fast.
Yeah, it is the battle of the Harris chassis here. Dave Johnson with the Suzuki engine and, of course, Josh Hayes, well, Yamaha power, of course, as they make their way out onto the Gardner Straight now. Looks like the Suzuki's got a fractionally longer pair of legs as they make their way down Gardner Straight. Well, Josh Hayes was saying earlier on the weekend he had his eyes closed through turn one. Maybe he just shut them there a fraction as well, but it looked like right behind Sean Giles had managed to get away from the Al Phillips-Steve Martin battle as well on board bike number 19. So a great showing here from the three-times Australian Superbike champion, Sean Giles.
But look how close this are at the moment. Metcher is right onto the back wheel of Aaron Morris. This battle could go right to the wire. But Morris is starting to get his lap times down into those low 37s as well, as these pair for Australia lead. Oh, Josh Hayes from America moves up into third place overall, relegating Dave Johnson. So maybe for the first time we're going to see an American on the 1-2-3 step of an international challenge race here at Phillip Island.
Well, this is a great battle because there's been two overtaking manoeuvres between the exit of turn 4 and the exit of turn 5 Siberia corner as they make their way up towards the top of the hill now as we jump on board with the Suzuki replay. Coming around through turn 12 and out onto the straight. I think we'll be on board with Aaron Morris. And we'll soon see Jed Metcher start to make his way past. No, we're on board with Jed Metcher, and Aaron Morris makes his way past. There's certainly nothing wrong with that Birrell engine in the Suzuki Katana.
That was just a Suzuki replay of the lead changing hands yet again. Oh, and talking about the positions changing hands. Steve Martin up the inside of Alex Phillips. That's Australia versus New Zealand right there in the battles for the points.
Well, Al Phillips also has just announced a big deal for the Australian Superbike Championship on board of Suzuki as well, and he's doing a great job here this weekend on board of the Arnold's Fruit Market Suzuki, representing Team New Zealand. But Steve Martin just in front on board the Katana is representing Team Australia along with his teammate Sean Giles, who's a fraction ahead.
And that onboard footage just show how hard these guys are really riding them. The front end shaking, everything fighting for traction as now they go through turn number 1 into the closing stages of this first leg.
Well, you can see there the back end of Al Phillips' machine bouncing up and down. That's how hard he was into turn 1 on that occasion. He's now in the middle of the Katana sandwich with Martin at the back of that three-man group, Giles at the front, and young Al Phillips, son of Robbie Phillips, in the middle on board the Arnold's Fruit Market Harris Formula 1 machine.
And he really rides that very well as that Alex Phillips and gives away a bit of horsepower into the other guys. But at the moment, Giles is trying to hold off it. It's a Suzuki freight train at the moment from two different teams, but Alex Phillips is really starting to come of age lately.
Just trying to pick up what American rider it is that's actually back behind this group. I think it might be either Steve Rapp or Larry Pegram that have done a pretty good job on board another one of the Mojo Yamahas.
Yeah, Steve Rapp, you're right, mate. One of our another visiting American who's just taking a little bit longer to get the grips of this track, but then again, being one of the fastest, well, the fastest racetrack in the world, it does take a bit to get your head around. And certainly with his head around it at the moment is Aaron Morris in the lead as he's starting to stretch that lead to the breaking point of that rubber band.
Well, you can tell this is the last lap because these three are now hammer and tongs going for it to try and decide positions. But I think we can safely say that Aaron Morris, barring an incident here at turn 12, will take full points for Team Australia. Also, Jed Metcher in second place will take excellent points for Team Australia as well. But a great start for Team America as Aaron Morris comes to the line to take the win, with Josh Hayes taking out third place behind Jed Metcher. Good points for Team America as well.
Great bit of history there for the Americans, their first top 3 finish in the International Challenge.
Well, congratulations to Aaron Morris and Team Australia taking the win. Jed Metzer in second place, Josh Hayes in third. Great result for Team USA. Davo Johnson, Sean Giles and Al Phillips rounds out the top 6.
Leading the way from New Zealand from Steve Martin, Larry Pegram, Jay Lawrence the Kiwi, Johnny Reynolds, Michael Neves and Mark Miller. Great result for him in his first time down here for America in position number 12.
Craig Ditchburn for Team Australia in position number 13, just ahead of Cam Donald in 14th. Good points from 25th on the grid, riding Rex Wolfenden's Harris Honda spare bike. Rennie Skaisbrook finished in 21st, and Pete Byers for Team New Zealand in 23rd as well. No stranger to the Phillip Island circuit.
Just in front of his team captain Duncan Coots and the team comedian, and there in 25th position, the fastest Cuban in Phillip Island, Jorge Guerrero.
Let's have a look at the highlights now of race number 1. You can see Aaron Morris did not get the best of starts, but a good start from Pridmore as he made his way down into turn 1. The early battle was between Davo Johnson on board bike number 3 and Jed Metzer on bike number 22, both representing Team Australia. And then this huge incident on the exit of turn 11, entry to turn 12. Jason Pridmore lost the back end of the Ralph Hudson Yamaha, and unfortunately Bo Beaton was left with nowhere to go. A red flag stoppage and a complete race restart. Aaron Morris got a better start on the restart, but once again it was a great start from Jed Metzer and Davo Johnson, who led the way early on with Al Phillips on board bike number 20 representing Team New Zealand, challenging hard.
And that shot on the Suzuki replay showing how hard Aaron Morris was riding and some of the lines he was taking. And again, these passing manoeuvres between Metzer at the front of the field, great racing all around.
On board with Jed Metzer, you can see the speed of Aaron Morris down the start-finish straight here at Phillip Island in towards turn 1. He'd been showing good lap times all weekend, and this race was certainly a continuation of his form as he came round through turn 12 and down to take the checkered flag and victory in the first International Challenge leg of Ford this weekend.
Oh, look, the start wasn't spectacular. I think I was back in about 9th from the first corner, so that wasn't too great, but luckily enough started to claw my back through, and then we unluckily had a bit of an accident and got the red flag, but fortunate enough for me, that gave me a bit of a chance to have another go at the restart, and got off to a bit better start that time. Still had to pick my way through, but I managed to come out on top, so I was pretty happy with it.
And there are, in fact, 3 more International Challenge races to come here this weekend at the 26th International Island Classic presented by Visit Phillip Island. As the teams get ready for this afternoon's second race, Steve Martin gives us a rundown on what 40 years of motorcycle technology looks like side by side.
It's hard to believe that the bike that I ride out on track is actually 38 years old. But we're not here to talk about the age of this bike. We're here to talk about the development between the bikes that were around that long ago compared to the new bikes that are out in the market. How much development has there been? I guess we can start at the front end. Of course, on the old bike, we've got conventional forks, whereas the new bike, the new Katana, has got upside down forks which are stiffer and make the bike handle better. Of course, the chassis, the old bike's got a steel frame, the new bike, an aluminium frame. So there's another big difference. Once again, a lot more development's gone into that. Back in the old days, these bikes used to wobble all over the place. There's big differences on the engine front. The new one's water-cooled, but if you have a look at this one, it's not water-cooled, it's air-cooled. It's got big fins here for keeping things cool, dissipating the heat. Massive clutch on the side of the engine. They didn't know how to make things small back then. It was just fitted in as you could. Also, fuel injection on the new bikes nowadays. The old ones run carburetors. Bikes initially came out with a twin shock rear end like we've got on the back of this Suzuki here. In the early 80s, though, Yamaha developed the monoshock rear end. That was able to use a linkage, and that linkage system smoothed the ride out considerably. All the other factories copied, and now on every bike nowadays that comes out, we have the monoshock rear end. In the last few years, we've seen new developments come on, and that's on the electronic side of things. The old bike, of course, it's got a spark plug and just a couple of wires that lead up to the on-off button. But this new bike, it's got ABS, it's got traction control, engine brake assist, so many different things that make these modern bikes really safe to ride. So there you have it. The difference between the old and the new, it's quite a bit. We all know there's plenty of action on circuit here at Phillip Island, but if you need a break, why not come down to the Grand Prix Circuit Visitor Centre, grab a champion burger, a coffee, and have a bit of a look around. If you're nostalgic, there's really hot looking cars and even bikes made by Kearney Reeves here. Have a look at this Arch, for example. But it's the old bikes that I want to show you next. Big names to see. Randy Mamola's bike, Eddie Lawson, John Kaczynski, so much nostalgia. But the bike that they all come to see is that number 46 there. That's the bike that Valentino Rossi won the championship on in 1997. The experience you do not want to miss out on, though, is getting a go on this replica Phillip Island Circuit go-kart track right beside me here. Hit it, guys.
The riders are out on track getting ready for International Challenge race number 2 here at the 26th Annual International Island Classic presented by Visit Phillip Island this weekend. And Davo Johnson unfortunately heading back towards the pits on board the Tom Dermody machine, the bike that took victory in the Ken Wooten Trophy last year. Hopefully they can get that fixed because we need him back out on track to score good points for Team Australia. There's Scotty Webster on board bike number 76, the only rider that has been in the Australian team every year for the International Challenge.
As we look at the grid, and Aaron Morris on pole, from Josh Hayes moving up to second from Jed Metcher, Davo Johnson, Sean Giles and Larry Pegram on the second row.
Steve Martin will start out of position number 7 with Craig Ditchburn and Cam Donald. Hopefully he can get a good start on board that Harris Honda.
Then Steve Rapp, Alex Phillips on the fourth row of the grid as we go through the field with the standouts. Jono Reynolds from the UK, Mark Miller from the USA, Michael Gilbert also from the USA.
Michael Gilbert's getting better and better every race. Rennie Skatesbrook out of position number 22. He's improved a little bit. And Brendan Wilson, representing Team New Zealand, also has been doing a great job here this weekend as well.
And there's my favourite Cuban, Jorge Guerrero, in position number 28, representing the US on his first visit down under.
Yeah, Laurie Fife in there as well. Dave Crussell, the Team USA captain. He's brought a whole lot of fast riders this year. He'd have to have a smile on underneath his helmet. Speaking of fast riders, we're on board with Josh Hayes, who have now taken up the mantle as the lead rider for Team USA after the demise of Jason Pridmore in race number 1. Good start there from the front row of the grid. It looks like Josh Hayes has got an absolutely cracking start. And I think that was Barrett Long on board bike number 29 on Robert Ruolt's Harris Kawasaki that was heading towards turn 1 with the front wheel well and truly in the air.
And Aaron Morris going through there as well, recovering from that start. But Larry Pegram got us good start from the second row of the grid too to slot in there in that leading bunch as we saw, well, some of the wildlife from Phillip Island, the Cape Barren geese who are part of this racetrack that make it all the more exciting as Josh Hayes heads down now on that Mojo Yamaha. There's a hand go out. Was that Scotty Webster? I'm not sure whose hand went out then, Phil.
I think it may have been even Dale Quarterly on board one of Kerry Andrews' hypercycle machines as they streamed down in towards turn 1. Look at that Jay Lawrence on board bike number 37 for Team New Zealand, trying to go around the outside of Cam Donald on bike number 2, the Harris Honda of Rex Wolfenden.
Oh, and Josh Hayes up the inside of Jed Metcher as they go through Siberia. He doesn't even have a look down. He puts the power down as they head up through the hag shed for the first of this 6 ladders. Oh, it was that Aaron Morris going underneath then on the VP Racing Fuels machine as he heads up the hill, moving up into 3rd position.
Yeah, it's a case of move aside coming through Aaron Morris, who hasn't been getting the best of starts. But as we mentioned, Braxy, no real surprise there. This weekend, today, is actually the first time he's had to have a race start on board bike number 64, the VP Fuels Corish machine. and he's right in the lead group now. He hasn't taken as long as the first race to get back up into this lead group as they come out of turn 11. That was the scene of the big incident involving Jason Pridmore and Bo Beaton in race number 1. Good news is they're both A-OK and on their way to hospital for a little bit of further treatment. But good to see them conscious, and hopefully they'll be back at a racetrack again soon as Morris just goes streaking past both Jed Metcher and Josh Hayes. What about the speed of that Katana with no aerodynamic efficiency at all?
And what about bumping Jed Metcher out of the way as well as he fought for traction? You can see the bars shaking in his hands as they head down in the Southern Loop for this second lap. But look at this big scene as you look at the backdrop of this magnificent Phillip Island circuit. You don't get many better views than that in international racing.
Well, that's what Josh Hayes said. He goes, he had to take his eyes off the view as he came down towards turn 1 for the first couple of laps. As they go through turn 3 now, with that backdrop in the background there, you can see that Aaron Morris is trying desperately hard to get away from Jed Metcher, but just can't quite do it. A great start there too. Let's have a look at the Suzuki replay now as they come onto the straight. You can see Hayes right in behind the screen. Aaron Morris has just got unbelievable drive right out wide on the ripple strip and went past them as they went underneath the start-finish line. That's probably not even really using the slipstream.
Now, here's the best view in road racing, I reckon. Aaron Morris going through. The track disappears as all you can see is the Southern Ocean in front of you. Then you've got to get refocused through to turn 1.
Steve Martin on board bike number 99, scoring good points for Team Australia. Speaking of good points, what about Larry Pegram on board bike number 72, doing a great job here? He's also only had limited laps here at Phillip Island. Paul Byrne doing a great job on the Macintosh Bathurst replica machine, another one of Tom Dermody's immaculate bikes racing here this weekend.
As on board at the moment with Jed Metcher, I think we are. Aaron Morris in front at the moment. But Steve Martin's a quiet achiever this weekend so far, Phil. He had a bit of a wretched time on Thursday and Friday during practice and qualifying, but he's finally finding his mojo at the moment.
Well, that's a good point, Braxton, because early on in the weekend he was actually questioning his own ability as a rider. He's worked hard on the setup with the guys in the team, and his pace has been getting better and better ever since he made those quite substantial changes to the suspension. And look where he is now. Bike number 99, absolutely flying.
How can you say you're losing it when you're still doing 137-minute laps around this place? It's just amazing. I'd be pretty happy doing that, but Aaron Morris is the one that's doing the 136s at the moment, leading the field as he stretches that lead. And as you said, Phil, the acceleration of that VP Racing Fuels machine as he heads down into turn 4 again, and he's just holding off the attentions of Jed Metcher at the moment. Oh, Paul Byrne runs it wide on the XR69 as well.
Yeah, hopefully that wasn't a problem. He just got in there a little bit too deep. I tell you what, Aaron Morris has really got some good pace going at the front, but Jed Metcher is hanging on very tight on board bike number 22. So good points here for Team Australia, good points for Team USA as well. Let's have a look back and see where our leading Kiwi rider is. I think that will be Al Phillips, maybe back there. I think he's in about 6th or 7th position at the moment. Or Metcher just stood the bike up there, didn't look comfortable as he came through the top of Lukey Heights. Steve Martin looks like he's also on a charge. He's got closer to the back of Larry Pegram's machine, bike number 22 as well. And good news is Paul Byrne is still circulating around the track, scoring good points for Team Australia. Oh, Jed Metcher down at turn 10.
Yeah, he started going over the top there where he missed a gear, Phil. Tried to collect it all up, but actually outbroke himself going in MG and just lost the front. Manages to pick it up again, but his race is well and truly done.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be able to get that bike started and back out on track. So that's a loss of points there for Team Australia, as one of the marshals gives Jed a hand to try and get it, but he's going to be right at the back of this field, Braxy. So not too many points, especially when you look at the point score. 40 points for first place, 39 for second, 38 for third, and back down the order like that. So not a lot of difference between... Oh, Larry Pegram almost off the track there. Has he managed to save it? I think he's off the track. Can he keep it out of the gravel trap? No, I think that might be Larry Pegram. He'll be dropping back through the field as well now.
Yeah, I think that's a retirement for him because he stood it up, similar to what happened before as we look on a Suzuki replay. Over the hill, this is Metcher on board with Metcher as he comes down. Oh, you can hear the front end chattering, the back end chattering as well. Tips it on there, just in a little bit too hot, tucks the front. Nothing too severe on that one, but just enough to destroy your race.
Yeah, I think he has had a couple of gear selecting problems so far this weekend. Looks like a recurrence of it there, which caused that incident. As you said, Braxy, it really started at the exit of the top of Lukey Heights, and unfortunately, he got caught out in the middle of turn 10. Back on board now with the Suzuki replay, and I think that was Larry Pegram going wide at turn 2.
Yeah, it was, and Josh Hayes going around the front of him too, so that was close to a bit of a disaster for both Americans.
That could have been bad loss of points there for Team USA. But the good news is, bike number 4, Josh Hayes, 4-time AMA champion, is still back on track to score good points. But Steve Martin, with all of these incidents, is clawing his way forward. I think you'll find he's up into second place now.
Yeah, well, little increments, but I was just going back to Josh Hayes on that Mojo Yamaha, Phil. Coming down here for the first time, he has really set it amongst them. He's not worried about reputations, and it's just proving how good a racer he is to come down with this USA team and really lift the bar in this international challenge competition.
Well, he said there's so many new things for him this weekend, but one thing that's not new for Josh Hayes this weekend is he's racing on his favourite Dunlop tyres. Looks like he's got a problem as well.
He's slowing right down there.
Slowed there a little bit. You can see that he's not revving the bike, or maybe he's even got a gear shifting problem because it's not going all the way up to the red line like it was earlier on. Maybe he might be trapped in 4th gear.
I like the way they've been saving the engine too, Phil, only revving out to 10,000 revs on these big 1,000cc machines. But look at the temperature, 195 degrees in the old Skull, but the water going through that cooling system.
Oh, Steve Martin, he was having worries about his own ability at the beginning of the weekend. Look at the way he's riding now. Lofting the front wheel on the exit of turn 2, on a charge. You can see Aaron Morris ahead. He's got the ears pinned back, and this is the 2009 World Endurance Champion back to his very best.
Yeah, it's a long time between drinks since I've seen Steve Martin competitive here. He's had not so much being competitive, Phil, but just the reliability of his machines in the last few years. He's had a few mechanical issues which has negated his charge.
And also Sean Giles making his way back through the field there too. Braxy, we could see after both he and Al Phillips had to start from pit lane. Didn't get down to the end of pit lane before it closed, but Al Phillips, he's charging his way back through the field, doing a stellar job for Team New Zealand.
And he's on board with John Reynolds on that Team Classic Suzuki Racing, owned by Steve Weekman from England. These machines, Phil, with the Carl Cox banner on the background, but you've seen these machines up close, Phil. They are just so well prepared.
Yeah, and it's great to see John Reynolds out here on that bike that technically doesn't fit within the rules, but they've got some extra weight on board. They've also reduced the rev limit, and it's good to see that bike out there, which is an absolute work of art racing in this class.
And look at the weather here at Phillip Island. As you said, Phil, Australia Day on the island. You can't get much better than that. And Al Phillips on the Spartan Arnold XR69. He's gone from the outside, dived up the inside of turn 12 to get the line. On board with Al Phillips at the moment as he goes stormy down Gardner Straight. 260, 265 kilometres an hour on these machines that are pretty old as the lap riders starting to come into play.
Actually, I think that was also, Steve Rapp and also Michael Gilbert. They've got a lesson in how fast you can actually get in towards turn 1 there from Al Phillips as he charges his way back through the field after starting from pit lane.
Well,
Top 4 is starting to really get strung out a bit now, but good points for Team Australia with Paul Byrne sitting there in 4th.
Sorry, Phil, just on the last lap, that's maybe why they're getting strung out a bit. Tyres are fighting enough. They've had enough traction problems, but look at Steve Martin. He's getting that style back, the old Marto.
And there's Al Phillips. What's he worked his way back up to now, Brax? He'd have to be well inside the top 10 on board bike number 20 after starting from pit lane. Talk about on a charge.
Cut it in half into the top 5, Phil.
Well, there's John Reynolds on board bike number 7. Isn't it great to have the 3-time BSB champion out here? Who's that he's battling with? Was that... Well, I think it was Dean Orchard on board bike number 88 who's doing a good job on another one of the Carl Cox Motorsport machines this weekend as well.
As we go back to the front, and it's Aaron Morris on bike number 64 on the VP Racing Fuels machine. Oh, he just tucks it onside underneath one of the back markers as he comes onto the straight again. Oh, look how hard he's riding that machine, Phil.
I think Aaron Morris is going for the lap record here as he comes down the Gardner Straight, takes the checkered flag. In fact, he was so fast, I think he even beat the checkered flag to the finish line. Looks over his shoulder. And the Cape Barron geese are also very impressed with Aaron Morris' performance this weekend. Lap times down into the 36s. Fastest lap of the weekend, a racing lap of the weekend so far for Aaron Morris, and victory. Good points for Team Australia. Steve Martin in second place once again for Team Australia, and Paul Byrne makes it a top 3 for a Team Australia with Josh Hayes, Al Phillips, our leading Kiwi, all the way from pit lane. What a ride from Al Phillips.
Steve Rapp there in 7th, Reynolds, Miller, and rounding out the top 10, Barrett Long, and a great ride from him as well on that Kawasaki.
Yeah, he keeps getting faster and faster. Scotty Webster once again scoring good points for Team Australia. Dean Orchard in 14th place on that Carl Cox Motorsports machine. And Duncan Coots, the Kiwi captain, taking away points for 19th position.
And also Larry Pegram recovering to get back on track back there in 15th position as well.
Yeah, good point, Braxy, because he did run off the field down there at turn 2 in that incident that also very nearly took out his team leader, Josh Hayes. Let's have a look at the Suzuki highlights now, along with all of that huge crowd on top of the pit buildings there at Phillip Island to see Josh Hayes get a great start in race number 2. and left the pole sitter, Aaron Morris, in his wake and back in the field.
Yeah, sometimes I think Aaron Morris likes blowing the start just to give himself a bit of a charge up. And certainly look at this charge as he comes down a straight and just motors his way past his opposition to take the lead and stretch it out, and just shows how much Hayes is under power, but had a bit of a mechanical issue there by the look of it, Phil.
At the same time, the battle was really heating up behind, with Larry Pegram putting in a great job, Steve Martin and also Paul Byrne, and that was the end of Jed Bench's race. Unfortunately, a missed gear coming down into turn 10. As we have a look at the Suzuki replay, you can see the front end chattering and the front tyre called enough. Unfortunately, an early exit for bike number 22.
But this battle for the minors with Steve Martin nearly come unstuck for the Americans, as Larry Pegram had some mechanical issues, and his teammate Josh Hayes had to take evasive action, but nothing could stop Aaron Morris as he comes motoring down there on the VP Fuels machine to take the win.
Oh, I got a bit better start than earlier on today, so that made it a lot better, made it a lot easier for me, a little bit more straightforward, you know. First race when I was coming back from 9th, whereas this one I think came back from about 5th, so made it a bit easier. Once I finally caught the boys, I kind of made a little gap and away I went. It was unlucky Jed went down, but you know, that's racing. So, no, look, definitely happy with the win. Bike's working pretty good. We started having a few trouble with it. We actually had trouble with third gear, so fingers crossed overnight tonight we can fix that and see what we can do tomorrow.
And after 2 rounds, the points for the Ken Wood Perpetual Trophy Award are Aaron Morris in first with 80 points, leading the way for Australia. Josh Hayes on his first visit from the USA on 75 points. Steve Martin in 73. Al Phillips from New Zealand on 71. Sean Giles on 66. And rounding out the top 6 is John Reynolds.
Australia leads the team challenge with 326 points over Team USA on 311, and Team New Zealand close behind on 253. Emma Francesco caught up with the biggest stars in the paddock here at the 26th International Island Classic this weekend.
I'm feeling a little bit starstruck because Carl Cox joins us again this year and working with Team Kiwi. Welcome back. I know you love Australia. I know you love this track, but I want to know, how did you make that transition from being an international DJ to getting into motorsport?
Yeah, you know, I mean, the transition in some ways of actually being a team boss started in 2013. And it started off with a sidecar team for Smith & Shorter Racing in New Zealand, and a friend of mine now who's a team manager called Gavin Sokolic. Between us, we decided to create this Carl Cox Motorsport team. And 5 years ago, we had our first motorbike, which is our GSXR 750, which is still have today, and it's still going. I don't know how, but it is. This is the fun of it all. You know, when I first came to see the racing here, I was down at Turn 1 with a club called a 750 Honda 750 Club, and then I was at the fence, watching them all go by, and I just knew that that's not where I wanted to be. I wanted to be in the garage with the pits with my own team. So that's how it kind of started, that transition of that.
Well, congratulations, because the expansion has been very quick. You started with 2 bikes, and now you're just quickly taking over pit lane.
Yeah, it's kind of, every time I hear the commentator, and a Carl Cox Motorsport, and another different period. It's quite mad to hear my voice hear my name over these machines. But at the end of the day, it's about teamwork, it's about the riders, it's about keeping the whole fun and the energy and the ability to see that these bikes still have race pedigree, from what they stood for in their early days to where they are now today in the modern era. I think what brings me back more than anything else is that it's an amazing track to actually be a part of. And every year that I'm here as well, I mean, the sun's shining most of the time. I kind of enjoy the summer of all of that. But I think it's so much passion and enthusiasm from everybody that makes this event what it is. And it's just nice to be a part of that.
Can I just ask you one more question? A lot of people are saying the Kiwis are the underdogs this weekend. How does that make you feel?
Yeah, the Kiwis are never the underdogs. They always say never, and this is the best we got so far, but the best is yet to come.
Carl Cox, it is an absolute pleasure to have you here. Good luck this weekend.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Two international challenges down, 2 more to come. Join us after this break for the continuing action at the 26th International Island Classic, presented by Visit Phillip Island. Phillip Island is an easy 90-minute drive from Melbourne. Connected by a bridge to the mainland, it is home to Australia's most popular natural wildlife experience, the Penguin Parade, as well as an abundance of unique natural and inspiring experiences. With a range of seaside villages to explore, enjoy cafe culture with sea views, shopping in boutique stores and a range of health and wellness experiences on offer. The island delivers rejuvenating experiences. Local produce is showcased by passionate restaurateurs, and meet the winemakers at boutique cellar doors. A range of boutique crafted beers are on offer at our local breweries. Discover Golden Bay beaches and majestic ocean surfing reserves that an island escape delivers. Stay a few days, a week, or discover more at visitphillipisland.com. There's more racing action on track than just the International Challenge races at the 26th Annual International Island Classic presented by Visit Phillip Island. 48 other races for racing buffs over the weekend, including the Phil Irving Trophy and the FIM Oceania Historic Road Race Cup, featuring classes from the 500 Forgotten Era, 350 Forgotten Era, 500 New Era and Unlimited Forgotten Era classes. The Pablo's Motorcycle Tyres New Era Formula 750 class featured Australian racing legend Malcolm Wally Campbell and his son Scott that have been stars in this class over many, many years riding Honda RC30s.
And those RC30s owned by Peter House, simply immaculate, simply brilliant machines. Scotty Campbell led for most of the races, but Wally's father, mate, he doesn't get too much slower, lapping pretty much the same as he did all those years ago.
They were also cross-entered in the New Era Formula 1300 class, also sponsored by Pablo's Motorcycle Tyres, where they had to contend with motorcycles boasting up to an extra 500 cc's and including the rampaging Aaron Morris on board the C&M Motorcycles FZR 1000.
Then we have the Shannon's 500cc post-classic race, which some beautiful bits of nostalgia running around here, from European models to the British that we've become accustomed to. But all in all, some magic racing led by Tom Bramage on the unobtainium, basically, patent 500cc machine from 1968. Well, you put your own price on it. We also had the Shannon's Insurance 350cc Classic with the old stylers, with the old 4-strokes mixing up with a few of the 2-strokes as well.
In the 350 post-classic class, it was the great mix of production and also genuine Grand Prix machinery, where we see the difference between TZ and RD Yamahas out on track. It's the same in the 500cc classic class, where you had TZ genuine Grand Prix machinery racing against more production-based bikes, both 2-strokes and 4-strokes.
And in the Shannon's 500cc classic class, these are for machines made from 1946 to 1962. Predominantly those old British bangers of the Nortons, the BSAs and the Ariels and the Velisets.
The 500cc New Era class for motorcycles up to 1990 featured both 2- and 4-stroke machinery and was also featured in the FIM Oceania Historic Road Race Cup.
As was the 500cc Forgotten Era machines, who put on some marvellous displays of racing, as well as had very big fields with some guys too keen to get racing underway.
And also featured Tom Bramage, and it was this second class that he raced in that set him up to win the Phil Irving Trophy with a perfect point score of 8 from 8.
And it wasn't only there too, because in the 350cc Forgotten Era, Lachlan Hill had a perfect score of 8 wins from 8 starts to also be an equal point sharing lead in the Phil Irving Trophy alongside Tom, and also a guy that's won it for the 4th time, Levi Day.
Yeah, to win the Phil Irving Trophy these days, you've got to be entered in 2 classes and you've got to be winning all 4 races in both of those classes. Keogh Watson on board bike number 43 was a real standout this weekend as well, riding for Team Western Australia. The 4th and final class making up the FIM Oceania Historic Road Race Cup was the Unlimited Forgotten Era class, once again held across 2 races due to high entry numbers.
And the likes of these big booming Yamahas and Suzukis from a time gone by. 2-strokes versus 4-strokes again, but there's nothing like the sound of a TZ 750 on full noise.
And after 16 intense races, it was New Zealand that took out the FIM Oceania Historic Road Race Cup for 2019. International Challenge race number 3 is getting ready to fire into action here at Phillip Island for the 26th running of the International Island Classic presented by Visit Phillip Island. And no better time to visit Phillip Island than the Australia Day weekend. You get to take in all of the attractions and the best classic racing action anywhere in the world at the same time. There's Larry Pegram. They're having a good, strong run so far here, the American team this weekend. Larry Pegram's been on fire, Steve Rapp, but Michael Gilbert is also going incredibly well, and he'll start well on the grid. But Aaron Morris, the man that's 2 from 2, will start from pole position, with Josh Hayes and Steve Martin joining him on the front row of the grid.
And then Giles, Martin and Pegram on the second row of the grid. Johnson, Metcher and Ditchburn on the third. Gilbert, Reynolds and Lawrence on the fourth row of the grid.
Then it's Michael Neves, Mark Miller and Dean Orchard